Hey, I'm John Brennan, and this is my narrative speech for speech class. It is called The Move to Illinois. When I was 17, I started getting into trouble and began falling behind in school. Part of this was because I started partying more, and another part was from getting my own car. Since I had my own car and was still a new driver, I ended up getting tickets for speeding and other things. This made my insurance go up and my parents uneasy about letting me drive. During the first year of driving, I began going out even more than I did before, which led to me caring less about school. My car was kind of banged up by this point, and I had been staying home from school more. This one night, I was out late and had a bad day, leaving me with a headache. I remember wanting to go home earlier, but since I did not drive, I had to rough it out through the boring time. By the time I got home, my phone died, making my night even worse. Since I did not have my own charger, I knew I would have to wake my brother up. I had work the next day and needed to check my voicemail to make sure I knew what time, so I did not have much of a choice. I woke him up, but we had been fighting throughout that week, so he was even more mad when I woke him up this late for something I had been borrowing from him for a while. We got into a big fight and I had to move to Illinois the next morning with my dad, unexpectedly. My dad came and picked me up to bring me down, which at the time I didn't know I would be moving there. A couple days later, my dad told me that they decided I was going to live down there. I was very mad about this, but did not have a choice in it at all. I had no cell phone at this point since it was lost in the chaos, making the situation more difficult. I had also just been in the end of my first long relationship in high school, so me moving made it end rougher. I had thought about moving back and staying with one of my good friends, but at the time, my dad told me he would be upset with me if I did so I decided to stay. My other brother Tim lived in Illinois at this time, and I stayed a half hour away from my dad, and they decided it would be alright if I lived with him. I moved back there a week after I got there, and this made the transition much more easy because I could hang out with my brother, his girlfriend, and their cats. The next surprise was finding out that school in Illinois starts a month earlier than Wisconsin, so school was going to start about a week after I moved in with my brothers, which cut my summer short a month. We frantically got me enrolled into school thanks to the hard work of my brother and his girlfriend, but still ended up starting 3 days late. This did not bother me, except it made me stand out more in the school that I just arrived at. It was a big change now that I had to take the bus to school. I had to take the bus to school senior year at a much bigger school. I had lost my license a little before moving there due to tickets and had been getting rides to school with my brother and friends. The school had 3 times as many students and was called Carl Sandburg in Tinley Park. I went through an awkward few days of walking around exploring the school for the first few days of lunch until I went out a door and was seen by a teacher. At the time, I did not know it was closed campus lunch since my last school was not and would not have expected it. So when the teacher saw me, she thought I must have been smoking a cigarette. She was completely wrong, but did not believe my story of being a senior who did not know it was closed campus lunch. So she took me to the head principal's office. I thought this was all completely ridiculous, but knew it did look strange, so I told him my story the best I could. I was very glad he believed me because I probably would have ran up a wall if I were to get into that kind of trouble for something I did not do when I also don't even smoke cigarettes. It also made it much easier because after telling him my story of walking around like a lamester by myself during lunch, he decided to introduce me to some people in my grade. This was even more awkward at first because this was lunchtime and him and another teacher were talking about which kids to introduce me to, so since it was the head dean and everyone was looking over to see why me and them two were talking in this crowded lunchroom. He introduced me to some kids from the basketball team that I ended up becoming good friends with and sat there the rest of the time I went to school there. I had a lot of good times meeting new people and hanging out with my brother during these times. During the times that I was there, but I still missed my regular life, pets, and friends that I was used to. I started going to school every day and getting good grades while still having a good time with my new friends that I had met. I was born in Illinois, so most of my family lived there, which was nice because this made it easier to see them. I was starting to get a bit more comfortable living there and going to school in Illinois, which made time go by quicker. After living there for about 3 months, one morning I unexpectedly had a seizure. This was the first time I had had a seizure, and it happened very quick, so the situation was pretty chaotic. Luckily, it was at the apartment with my brother and his girlfriend there, who acted quickly and helped me until the ambulance got there. This was very wild for me because I did not expect or know what was happening at the time. It seemed like a long, crazy, but realistic dream, and I was surprised to see it was still daylight out on the way to the hospital. After my brother and mom that I had been arguing with came down to the hospital, after this my brother and mom came down that I'd been arguing with to the hospital because they were worried and we all started talking again. I was happy that out of the rough and unexpected situation there was at least something good because we all started talking and eventually got over the fight. This also led to me moving back a month later after the semester ended because I had been doing better in school and we were all talking again. I had the option of staying with my brother, and I knew I would miss him and my new friends I had made, but decided to move back. I decided this because my brother was going to be moving, so I would have had to change schools again. I knew that I could visit him and those friends whenever. I knew I wanted to get back to my normal area and best friends. I moved back for my last semester of senior year, which was great to be able to graduate with all my good friends that I grew up with. I stayed on track and graduated on time, so I feel that even though it was a lot of work and hard parts of moving, I had learned something from it and gained new experiences. I still live in Wisconsin and have been keeping good control of my epilepsy condition. I also stay in touch with my old friends in school in Illinois, and I always hang out with my friends that I grew up with here. I don't fight with my brother anymore, and I feel moving down there gave me and my brother Tim a lot of good time to hang out. Overall, this whole experience taught me new things even during the rough parts, but was important and worked out well. Thanks.